And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, winner of the National Radio Hall of Fame Award, Michael Savage.
So, Mr. Obama is saying that you can't demonize people or call him a demon because it divides people. And people get angry at each other. You can't demonize people. So I thought about that, and I said, well, wait a minute. Let's now stop and think. Who has Barry O. demonized? Who has Hillary demonized? Why, it's a simple, short list. The very man who's offended by someone calling him and Hillary a demon. Let's see. They've demonized cops. Check that, yes. They've demonized white people. Check that. They've demonized people with money. Check that. They've demonized Christians. Check that. They've demonized Israeli Jews. Check that. They've demonized Russians, check that. They've demonized Putin, check that. Who else? Let's see, who else have these non-dividers, these uniters, demonized? Oh, yeah, the rednecks, right. They've demonized half of Trump's supporters. They know who you are. You are all deplorables. And this is a man who is so smart as a propagandist that he thinks he can triangulate the story by making believe he hasn't done the same and worse. And again, this is not the first time that America has faced a socialist takeover. Obama was only the first barrage. He didn't get quite as far as they wanted him to get. He got close, but he didn't win. She comes in, the bull is dead. Did you know that 100 or so years ago our country was battling a socialist takeover, similar to what we are facing today? Many of you don't know this. The issues in the teens and the 20s, those are the 19s and the 1920s, are very similar to today. The campaigns were being run on fair wages for labor, benefits for veterans, regulation of immigration, treaties with much of the world, race riots in major cities. And yes, there were even terror attacks that were issues in the 1920 election. The other similarity was that there was a socialist movement trying to take over the government. You see, the roots of the ideology that Barack and Hillary are trying to impose on us did not just emerge in the 1960s. They go back over a century. Does the name Eugene Debs strike a chord with you? Eugene Debs was an Indiana labor organizer. Does that sound like a community organizer to anyone listening? Eugene Debs embraced socialism and was the Socialist Party standard-bearer for 5 elections. And believe me, he was not a marginal player. In 1912, he got 6% of the vote. And yet his last campaign garnered him nearly 1 million votes when the population was obviously much smaller. You see, Russia's Bolshevik Revolution and the dawn of communism was an exciting experiment that many in this nation saw as quite compelling. Eugene Debs took the message to the streets in the form of strikes and fighting for, quote, workers' rights. Did you know that in 1919 there was one of the biggest race riots in Chicago over the alleged false arrest of a black man instead of a white man for murder? The conduct of the white police force was being criticized during and after the riots. Black Lives Matter. Ring a note to anyone. I'm going to send an appeal out to Mr. Obama. I don't know who he's referencing when he says someone on the radio. I don't think it was me, because it could be me, because I said that he's a demon for a long time because I believe he's demonic. And I think in deciding yesterday how to appeal to Obama, if he gets the reports from one of his minions working inside the inside of the inside, probably he was referring to Alex Jones in that comment. I never mentioned sulfur, I don't think, but I did say he was demonic, because he is demonic. How else would you describe what Obama is doing to this nation other than demonic? There's no other way to describe it. And so I would send an appeal out to Mr. Obama rather than yelling and screaming, because he's the most powerful man on earth, and he's not going to listen anyway. But I think that somewhere inside Barack Obama, there is a different person. Somewhere deep inside of him, there is a man who actually might understand that he has weakened the military, that he has demonized the police, that he has instigated mobs and riots, that he is conducting warmongering against Russia, that he has conducted the greatest spy enterprise ever seen in the world, that he has looked the other way as radical Islamists commit murder and trample the world, while he is destroying our borders, flooding the U.S. with undesirable, deplorable welfare leeches, and continues to practice a scorched earth policy against America. I actually would appeal to Mr. Obama to stop and take a deep breath and understand that everything I have just said can be factually supported. I do not know in my heart of hearts if Obama really wants to do these things or even knows he's doing these things. I don't actually know if he is doing these things on purpose because he has an enmity towards this nation and wants to destroy it or weaken it and turn it into just I don't know what he wants to turn it into. But I do know that he's turning it into something it was never intended to be. And so this is not an apology. This is an appeal to Barack Obama to stop and take a deep breath and stop listening to the mean, evil sorority advisors around you and look at what you've actually done. You have turned this society against each other in a way that it has not been for at least 50 years. You've turned black against white, white against black. You have weakened the military to the point where I don't even know if it can function anymore. You have conducted a war upon the police to such an extent that police are being killed on a regular basis, and you did it. You did it, Mr. Obama. Eric Holder, another one, did it to America. All of the people who demonized police have done it to America, where cops are afraid to do their job, and when they do, they get killed. It was you who instigated the Black Lives Matter mobs. You instigated the riots. You invited the rioters to the White House. You conducted the spying on ordinary Americans who were not guilty. You are looking the other way as ISIS and other radical Islamists commit murder and rape. You, Mr. Obama, are trampling the U.S. Constitution, even though you are a constitutional scholar. You, Mr. Obama, have erased our borders with Mexico. You, Mr. Obama, are flooding the U.S. with undesirable, deplorable welfare leeches. I can support that by the simple fact that the largest percentage of people on welfare are not Native Americans, and I don't mean American Indians, Mr. Obama, but working tax-paying Americans. But the inordinate amount of welfare that is being sucked out of the taxpayers' blood is being sucked out by your very immigrants. And so it's fair to say that you, Mr. Obama, are practicing a scorched earth policy against the United States of America. So why do you find such offense and some comedy in the statement that some of us would say that you are demonic? This is my appeal. I'm trying to do it in a different way because this country has one election left. And we know what the media is doing. While the world is burning, the vermin in the media continue to talk about what Trump did in 2005. Many of you have become disheartened because of the piling on by the lowest of the human species, the Wolf Blitzers, the Jake Tappers. I can name them all. It doesn't matter what I say about them. They are paid operatives of the Democrat socialist machine. They are leading you to believe that the election is already over. They want you to believe that Trump can't win. They want to dishearten you so that you don't even vote, because they know that the entire election hinges upon the voter turnout. Democrats understand that. That's why they're working the crowds. That's why they're working the gutters. That's why they're working the prisons. That's why they're working the swamps. That's why the demon in the White House is flooding America with illegal aliens. That's why they've eliminated voter IDs in order to get voter turnout for the most corrupt criminal woman to have ever gotten this close to the White House. And what they want you to feel is that it's over and you can't win, so why vote? Well, the exact opposite is true. Not only must you vote, you must actually get out the vote. You must speak to others on the other side of the aisle, those of you who understand what is at stake, and you must tell them that everything is at stake because the Democrats are practicing a scorched earth policy on America. And should she win, all hell will break loose in this nation. She will conduct herself in a manner that you can only fear. Now, I can ask you, what do you fear most about a Hillary presidency? I don't think you have to be a genius to understand the answer to that question. Just look at the amendments. Take a look at amendments 1 through 10, and you'll see a few of them are right in her sights. She'll start with the First Amendment. She will limit the freedom of speech. She will limit freedom of the press. She will limit, if not eliminate, freedom of the Internet. Now let's look at the Second Amendment. You say, well, wait a minute, that's established law. Do you think that Kagan will still say that the Second Amendment is established law if Hillary Clinton wins and stocks the Supreme Court the way, let us say, Franklin Delano Roosevelt did? Expanded the court, stocked the court in order to continue his fascistic control over America? I don't think so. So now let's look at the election. And when I told you in the 1920s there was a huge campaign for socialism, and it got very close to taking over America. It was the last time this country faced it the way we're facing it right now with Hillary. See, the election between Hillary and Trump is very clear to me in another way. It's between centralized, powerful, authoritarian, big government. That's her. You just want to put it in a mild way. And let us say a free market capitalist society. That's the division right there. You want a free market capitalist society with Donald Trump, or do you want to see an authoritarian centralized government that controls every breath you take, taxes you to death, constricts your business, and floods America with so many refugees from so many nations on earth that there's virtually no America left? That's the election in a nutshell. Now, you'd think it would be a slam dunk if people truly understood what is at stake. But because of the fellow travelers in the media, like Wolf Blitzer, like Jake Tapper, I can name all of them, the people are confused. They don't know what's really at stake. And, of course, then they're getting the dirt and the mud. That's all they want to hear is the salacious details. Then you got characters, low life of the lowest. They throw them off radio, have no radio show, no nothing. A guy like Jerry Rivers, you know him as Geraldo Rivera. Can you imagine this nobody who was thrown off radio for being a phony had the nerve to try to inject himself into the Trump issue by saying just last week that him and his brother had secret tapes of Trump that they were going through and they have stuff that's worse than what you heard, and that creep had the nerve to say a thing like that, and then he apologized the other day saying there's nothing in the tapes? That person is still in the media? That person is still on television? I don't even know where he is. This is what we're facing, that there are no consequences for outright liars, plain out liars. We all lie. We know that in our private lives or publicly occasionally. But when you lie in the media and you are caught, you're usually fired. Why is it that people in the media caught lying now are not fired? Why? Because the lowest form of humanity have taken over the networks. The lowest people on earth have risen to the highest positions in the news business. That's why. That's why they're not fired. What we are witnessing in this country now is a breakdown approaching a civil war. Several books ago, I wrote a book called Stop the Coming Civil War. I followed it up with Government Zero. I followed it up with Scorched Earth, which, by the way, I got the news last night, the other media outlets. Now, I expect all the other media outlets, but wouldn't you think that Snow White, who you know as Megyn Kelly, wouldn't you think that Snow White would want to have a best-selling author on her show? You would, wouldn't you? But if you look into Snow White's orientation, political orientation, that is, you will find out that Snow White, just like the others, are following the marching orders and the marches towards socialism. Make no mistake about it. In socialist systems, there are some very rich and powerful people on top, and the rest of the people are serfs. Don't for 1 minute confuse it with an egalitarian equality society where everyone makes the same amount of money. There are the very rich, and then there are the rest of the people. And that is why Snow White, along with those in the media who are all very, very wealthy, continue this absurd march towards socialism. Be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. The other day, a plane crash in East Hartford, Connecticut, was conducted by a Muslim from Jordan. At first, of course, we were lied to again by the vermin in the media, and we were told it was not a terror attack. Nothing to see here. Move on. But the pilot was Jordanian. We found out 2 days later that the plane was purposely crashed in Connecticut. 2 Boston police shot by a man wearing body armor after responding for a call on domestic abuse. Not one word from the demons in the media. Meanwhile, Vladimir Putin is recalling Russian officials from the United States and Western nations in what could be a signal that he's preparing for a war, all because of the demon in the White House and Hillary Clinton, who has called him Hitler. The latest WikiLeaks dump shows collusion between the media. and the Clinton campaign to try to take out any opposition. That is something that was done and is done only in third world dictatorships. The U.S. Navy is launching attacks on Yemen after a failed attempt of firing a missile on a U.S. Navy destroyer. The list goes on and on. But what is it that you're reading in your newspapers? What is it that you're seeing on your television screens? What are you hearing during the news breaks on the radios? Donald Trump said some really naughty things. Is that what you're supposed to worry about? Now the old hags are amazingly coming out of the woodwork to accuse him of groping them so many years ago. Why is it happening now? Why? How come the very same offended media types had nothing to say when Bill Clinton was accused of raping several women and having many affairs right in the Oval Office? That wasn't news. Oh, wait a minute, all you good liberals. We just read that Russia is pulling officials out of the West. We learned that Russia has told all people to come home to the motherland, including their children. The prospect of World War III now looms. Do you know why? Because war mongers in both parties, neocons, neolibs, are salivating for a war with Russia. They feel that that would save the economy. They feel that would lead us to an economic prosperity, as all of our industries would be called on to produce at high levels. It would lead to full employment. Is that what you want? Is that what you want from a Democrat president? Because the one opposing it is Donald Trump. Donald Trump said he would do a deal with Putin to make sure we don't go to war. So how important do you think this election is? When I say in scorched earth that we are one bad election away from losing everything, and despite the fact that I'm blackballed by Snow White and the friendly green giant on Fox News, the book is 4 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list, despite the fact that I have zero publicity, except this show. Are the words Donald Trump said enough to keep you away from him? Is the fact that he said something in 2005 enough for you to go to war with Russia? Do you want to really put our nation in the arms of Hillary Clinton and her mad, mad sisters, who will double down on Barack Obama's socialist agenda? I want you to try to think instead of just reacting emotionally. Imagine the world if that happens.
Savage.
You know, my friends, we the people have an option here. We got to say, stop banging the war drums. Stop banging the war drums. You're being a fool, Obama. Back off with your ego, Obama. There's nothing in this for us, Obama. We don't give a rat's behind about Ukraine. We don't care about those issues. We care about what you've done to our country. We care that you melted our border with Mexico. We care that Hillary did a secret uranium deal with Russia while now saying Putin is Hitler. Do you know anything about the uranium deal? Of course not. All you heard about is Trump kissed a woman on an airplane 50 years ago. That's because of the lowlifes in the media. We have the worst media in the world. We have a media that is lower than that of Paraguay. A Paraguayan journalist probably has more dignity than any writer at the New York Times. A Uruguayan talk show host probably has more intelligence than Wolf Blitzer. Somebody from the Tierra del Fuego who covers the life and times of a penguin knows more about world events than ABC, CBS, and NBC put together. For them to drag us through this is a sickening thing. When Bill Clinton was stooping everything with a heartbeat in the White House, they said it's nothing. Bill Clinton grabbed everything with a heartbeat in the White House. It was nothing. They said it's shenanigans. Donna Brazile said shenanigans. They all said shenanigans. Not one word when John F. Kennedy was having his way with so many different women, including Marilyn Monroe. Shenanigans. They all do it. Look the other way. They're just men. Trump kissed a woman on an airplane 50 years ago. Now that supersedes the serpent in the White House starting a war with Russia. It's so bad that even Jill Stein, who is running for the presidency, she doesn't have a chance of winning, but she's running and she's not stupid. She's running as a Green Party candidate. Even she is concerned that Hillary may start World War III. I want you to listen to Jill Stein of the Green Party right now on the Savage Nation.
It's now Hillary Clinton who wants to start an air war with Russia over Syria by calling for a no-fly zone. We have 2,000 nuclear missiles on hair trigger alert, and Mikhail Gorbachev, the former premier of the Soviet Union, is saying we are closer to a nuclear war than we have ever been. Under Hillary Clinton, we could slide into nuclear war very quickly from her declared policy in Syria. So I won't sleep well at night if Donald Trump is elected, but I sure won't sleep well at night if Hillary Clinton is elected.
Jill Stein, Trump is less dangerous than Clinton. She will start nuclear war with Russia. Well, I agree with her. I may not support her on many other issues, but I support her on her clarity with regard to nuclear war. She said Trump is less scary on foreign wars because he wants to work with Russia. Did you hear that? He wants to work with Russia. And she wants war with Russia. Not Jill Stein, your girl Hillary. And if you're with her, well, you're with war. You're with her, you're with war. Did you know that Russia has told its citizens to find out where the closest bomb bunkers are? A recent television broadcast in Russia explicitly told civilians in Russia to find out where their nearest bomb shelter is and repeatedly ask viewers if they were ready for nuclear war. Now, you could say this is just saber-rattling. You could just say it's Putin trying to scare Obama, and you would be right. But, you know, it raises a few questions such as these. Do we have bomb shelters in America? The answer is no. Why would we need bomb shelters? Obama has one. The entire Mandarin class have bomb shelters somewhere outside of Washington. They're going to be well taken care of. What do they care if they start a war? They have bomb shelters. How come we, one of the wealthiest nations on earth, do not have bomb shelters in every city? Oh, I see. The peacemaker came along, the Nobel Prize winner, and war was over. And lo and behold, we learn late in the Demons campaign of mild terror here in America that we might have a war with Russia because he wants a war with Russia because the people who control him want a war with Russia because it's good for business. You know, it doesn't matter whether you like Russia or dislike Russia. It doesn't matter whether you like Putin or you don't like Putin. What you should like is peace between two superpowers, especially two superpowers that have hydrogen bombs. But since we have a lunatic, a demon in the White House who has never fired a Daisy BB gun, who has apparently never been in a fist fight, who has been surrounded by handlers and protectors his entire life, who has never lost a battle with anyone because he's so smart and so brilliant. What does he care if there's a war with Russia? I'm Barack Obama. And he can beat his chest. I'm Barack Obama. I've beaten everybody but Putin. I've gave him the death stare at the G20 conference. I'll show him. I'm Barack Obama. And I have Hillary Clinton behind me, and I have Michelle Obama behind me, a wonderful sterling character. I love her ratings are so high. It just shows you. The woman has abused her power as first lady from the day she started from the get-go. Abused us. One trip after another. Mother-in-law living in the White House. Not one word from the sycophants in the media. Not one word about this abuse of the taxpayer by Michelle Obama. So the question is, how in the world can any liberal listening to this show vote for this crazy woman, Hillary Clinton? Her extremism, whether it be the economy or international relations. In the economy, NAFTA, her husband passed it, sent our jobs overseas. Wall Street deregulation blew 9 million jobs up in smoke. Hillary Clinton. So, my friends, why do you think Trump is popular? Trump is popular because of Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama's radical policies. Now Hillary Clinton wants to start an air war with Russia over Syria, calling for a no-fly zone. Now, you know Russia's not going to go for it. What, because you want a no-fly zone, they're not going to fly? You're not dealing with the Syrian Air Force here. You're not threatening Saddam Hussein's rickety Air Force here. You're threatening a nuclear power here. Putin's not going to stop flying over Syria and killing ISIS. After all, what is Putin doing in Syria? Pardon me. What is he actually doing there? The vermin of the planet, the Hitlers of our time, the Hitlers in the headscarf, the subhumans in ISIS, who have raped, murdered, pillaged, set men on fire while they were alive, who have gone into Christian and Yazidi villages and kidnapped girls 7 and 8 years old to turn them into sex slaves. They're finally on the run. outside of Aleppo. And guess who wants to give them safe passage? Mr. Peace. Mr. Peacenik, the demon in the White House, wants to give ISIS safe passage out of Aleppo into Syria so they can go kill Russian soldiers. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, if this is not the mark of a totally deranged individual, I'd like to know what is. Again, because he can put on a tie and he can give a speech and he has a good voice, doesn't mean he's not crazy. Obama's policies are crazy. I know it. Jill Stein knows it. Everyone listening to the show knows it. Come on, people. That's a joke. That's Obama's speech from yesterday. So I think your vote is very, very clear right now, and this is not a racial thing now. This is a survival thing. Comes right down to it. It's a survival thing. And here was Obama. Yesterday I played this, where he talks about someone in radio calling him a demon. I think he was referring to the good man I know, Alex Jones. Of course, I've been calling him a demon longer than Alex has. I don't want a prize for that. But Alex added the sulfur part of it. This is the most important thing I'm going to tell you in 2016. The media has set it up so that you feel Trump can't win. Many of you have become defeatists. You say, he's done it again. He's put his foot in his mouth. He's got to step aside. He can't win. He's lost. That's false. They want you to believe he can't win so you don't vote. They're terrified that all the polls show the reality is that she's losing. She's losing everywhere they turn. She's down everywhere they turn. Her rallies are attracting mice. They're not attracting crowds. Trump is attracting crowds, and they know it. And in the minority community, he's attracting gigantic audiences. The minorities love Trump. They don't trust her. They despise her criminality. They don't like her personally. And they're afraid that they're losing even the minority vote, which is why suddenly Michelle Obama was called out on the campaign trail. They know they're losing black people. They're losing Hispanics in their desire to take over the world. And that's why they're suddenly going out on the road for her. So what I'm saying to you is don't be a defeatist. This is the last chance we have. You know and I know that if she wins, it's all over. It will be the last nail in the coffin of America. It will be the last nail in the coffin of this country. Why do I say that? Is it straight hyperbole? Is the sky going to fall? Well, let's say if there's a nuclear war with Russia, the sky will fall down. So let's start with that. She wants war with Russia. She called him Hitler. A year and a half ago, Hillary called him Hitler. That was very diplomatic. That shows great balance. That shows a true temperament for politics. Her progressive policies and his open borders have poisoned America. Obama has trampled on our Constitution. Obama has turned America into an emerging third world nation of terror, riots, mobs, and chaos. We are one bad election away from losing everything. And yes, I'm going to say it, because the words are on everyone's lips right now. Scorched earth. Don't buy the book. Give your copy away to an undecided. And let them see what I have documented as to the policies of the serpent in the White House and what she would do in his place. Everywhere I turn, there's articles about potential nuclear war with Russia. Even CNN ran an article yesterday. Russia and U.S. move past Cold War to unpredictable confrontation. Mind you, this is from CNN. They haven't lost their minds. Only some of their spokesmouths have. Jill Stein, Green Party. She says that Hillary could start a nuclear war. Apparently she's interested in this more so than who accused them of that or this. Russia orders all officials to fly home, any relatives living abroad, as tensions mount over the prospect of a global war. Came from Mail Online. Nuclear war imminent as Russia tells citizens to find out where the closest bomb bunkers are. We have no bunkers here. Isn't that interesting that our great benevolent leader has no civil defense in the United States of America? Why, that's because he ended all wars, didn't he? Didn't Obama end all wars? He dismembered a good portion of our military, especially the command structure. He replaced combat veterans with fools from universities at every level. And now he wants to go to war with Russia. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. Obama gave a speech attacking the First Amendment again. Again, the demon gave a speech attacking the First Amendment, but he always does it. He does it in a way that you don't know he's doing it. U.S. President Barack Obama speaks at the White House Frontiers Conference at Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh, PA. And he gave a speech saying that the media is just a wild, wild west that allows conspiracy theorists a broad platform and destroying a common basis for debate. And then the snake recalled days gone by when only 3 television channels delivered fact-based news that most people trusted. And he said that's what we need in America. We need those 3 channels back. The ones that you grew up with, filled with 3 liars like Dan Rather, Peter Jennings, and the other reliable liars, including Walter Krankenhaus. I grew up on it. When I was 11 years old, I trusted them till I became a man. And then I realized that they're just paid spokesmouths for the power structure. So now we have the biggest liar in history, a man who, according to Julian Assange of WikiLeaks, has actually created the greatest spy network in the history of the world, this sneaky devil. Barack Obama is the sneakiest devil on the planet. Is that a conspiracy theory, Mr. Obama? Is it not true that you created the greatest spy agency in the history of the world? Is that a lie, or is that true? Is that true or false, Mr. Obama? You say it's a conspiracy theory. I challenge you. If we have learned through WikiLeaks and others that you have created the greatest spy network in the history of the world, greater than that of the Stasi in East Germany, where every German citizen was spied upon by secret police, and you now say that it's a Wild West, the media landscape, and that we are just putting out conspiracy theories. Well, let's see, what else is a conspiracy theory, Mr. Obama, that you don't want getting out there? Is it not true that you had the street thugs from Black Lives Matter into the White House many, many times? Is that a conspiracy theory, or is that true? Are they not, in fact, the people who burn cities down and attack police? Is that a fact, or is that a conspiracy theory? Is it not true that you had one of the worst worst people in the history of America, a street radical, a con man, a dangerous evil man who attacked Jewish businesses and others in Harlem during his rise to power, named Al Sharpton? That's a fact. Do you know anything about the Freddy's Fashion Mart fire, Mr. Obama? Is that a conspiracy theory? You would have a man who accused the detective falsely of raping a young black girl and smearing her in feces. You would have him in the White House, how many, 30, 40, 50 times, Mr. Obama? Is that a conspiracy theory? Is that a wild, wild west, Mr. Obama, or is that a fact? Is it a wild west theory that you have dissolved our border with Mexico, permitting people into this nation who have no reason to be here, no way to support themselves, many of whom are infected with diseases such as Zika, tuberculosis, and others, Mr. Obama? Is that a fact, or is that a Wild West theory? Is it true, Mr. Obama, that you are bringing in Muslims that you cannot screen properly, and that instead of bringing in Christians who are running for their lives, you've brought in almost overwhelmingly of the tens of thousands you brought in? I don't know how many. You were supposed to be 1,000 and 10,000. We don't know what you've actually sneaked into the country, but we know that the percentage is something like 96% were Muslims and 4% were Christians. Why would you bring in so many Muslims and so few Christians from the Middle East, Mr. Obama? Is that a legitimate question, or is that a conspiracy theory of mine? Here's another one for you, Mr. Obama. Have you trampled on our Constitution because you're the most divisive president in history? Is that a conspiracy theory, or is that something that one of the 3 network spokesmouths wouldn't ask? Isn't it curious to you that a man who is such a progressive in so many ways, who has brought us so far in so many progressive ways, wants to bring us back to the 1950s in terms of news information? Doesn't it strike you as rather odd? What is it about the dissemination of news through the internet and talk radio and such that offends him so much? Is it that people finally have access to information that in the past they would never have even been able to read? And are those things that would offend him in some way because it's not curated by the sorority that he depends upon? He wants a curation?